Ray Flores joined alongside by Josh the Punk Thomson. Josh, thanks so much for your time. Welcome to Chicago. Give us your thoughts as you're doing a PR tour. You're getting set to collide with Ben Henderson coming up on January 25th. The main event, UFC on Fox here in Chicago at the United Center.
The restaurants here are amazing. It's not as cold as I thought it was going to be, so everything's looking up.
Well, not yet.
Not yet.
Wait until January.
Well, hopefully I don't have to leave the hotel in January. I'm going to land, come here, and just this will be it.
Well, Josh, let's talk about your main event matchup against Ben Henderson. You were supposed to fight Anthony Pettis for the title in about a week's time, but now that has since been moved. Anthony got hurt, therefore you are now inserted into a matchup with Ben Henderson. I know that it's a difficult challenge and an adjustment for you to be able to fight Ben Henderson and not for the UFC World title.
The hardest part is just, you're on cloud nine with being given the opportunity to fight for a title, and then, then that'd be taken away from you. So that to me was the hardest part. But then my honest opinion is that I'm fighting the next best thing. You're fighting somebody who has had the title for the last 2.5 years and poses a big threat, I think, stylistically for me, a lot more than Pettis does. And there's ways to exploit Pettis, and I feel like I could have done that. But with Benson, there's a lot of other avenues and areas that I have to cover in training to make sure that he doesn't exploit my weaknesses, and just go out there and fight my fight.
Would you have been comfortable waiting until Anthony Pettis was going to be healthy, if that would have been the option, or would you want to have a fight against Ben Henderson to stay busy? You haven't fought since April 20th.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to how long he would have been out. If he was only going to be out till March, then yeah, I would have waited. But that opportunity wasn't given to me, so this was the next best opportunity for me. I asked to fight any of these guys: Benson, TJ, Bill, and then even Dos Anjos. I said any of the top 5 guys, top 4 guys, whatever it is. I said I'm looking to fight one of those guys, and I was willing to sit out and wait for that. But otherwise, if it wasn't going to be Pettis, then I wanted the next best thing, and this is the next best thing, man.
Now, you haven't fought since, as we mentioned, that victory, that impressive W over Nate Diaz in April. In your next fight, obviously January 25th. Are you at all concerned about octagon rust whatsoever?
No, not at all. This is kind of a short layoff. I've had layoffs that were 15, 16 months from injuries and things like that. So no, not at all.
Now, fighting somebody like Ben, what do you feel the challenges that Ben poses to you?
Everything is he's well-rounded. I've been telling people this, for the last week and a half, that he has there's more threats that he poses to me than Pettis does, and we're kind of mirror images of each other. We're both decent wrestlers, both good grapplers, both good on the feet. I mean, it's kind of just one of those fights where this sport was created, MMA was created, and this is what you're gonna get. You're gonna get an actual, true, real MMA fight, and generally guys will end up being, one-sided. Randy Tour was mainly wrestling, Chuck was mainly knockouts, and those are the type of fights that you generally see if you get a guy to fight your way. But it doesn't really matter where the fight goes with Benson. You're going to see good technique all the way around, from the ground to the feet, so it's going to be a good fight.
Now, let's look ahead. Fighting on Fox, on network television, this is something new for you to be able to have this kind of stage against Benson. This is the 3rd time Ben has headlined a network TV card. How excited are you to be able to kind of showcase your talents for the entire world?
It's going to be good, I'm just excited it's here in Chicago, it's here in the States, and, with an arena like this, I mean, like I was saying earlier today, was that if we can get the fans to get that excited for us after watching the Blackhawks last night, if we can get those fans to act like that at our fight, it's going to be great. It's going to be a great night.
Now, I know you went inside the Blackhawks locker room following the contest against the Stars. What was that like?
Well, I made sure to walk around the head,
yes,
and after looking up the pictures of Justin Bieber walking on it, and all the comments that I had read below, I was like, okay, make sure you avoid that thing at all costs. So that was good. We had a great time. Had a good chance to meet with Shaw, who got in a scrap last night, and then. What
did you tell him?
Good fight, man. What do you want to say? Usually we're trained hey, when the refs pull, when the refs start pulling you off to let go and stop. But I mean, he kept going at it, and he was still on the feet. And I always thought the rules were that hey, you don't stop the fight until they hit the ice. But once the jersey got pulled over, I guess that's another rule. Once the jersey's pulled over the head, you can't punch anymore. The refs jump in. So, but I was really impressed. Had a good chance to talk with Jonathan Taves, and I didn't get a chance to meet Kane, but I'm a big fan of Taves, and I love how he plays the game.
We were discussing a little bit about the judges, and obviously, you know, the judging in combat sports always comes under scrutiny, but especially with what took place back in November with Johnny Hendricks losing to George St. Pierre. You know, are you cognizant at all that you don't want this fight to go to the decision whatsoever?
No, but that was in Vegas. This is Chicago, so things are different. I'm not going to worry about that type of stuff. You know, you're going to have human error in any sport. It doesn't matter. You saw it with the game the other night, with the football game, when the refs didn't move. They didn't give Washington the first down or something like that. So it's human error, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen in all in sports. Now, I'm not saying that it was human error that GSP won the fight. I'm just saying that, you know, it's their opinion, and they get paid to make that opinion, and that's what happened. So, I mean, even now after the fight's been over and Dana went back and watched it, and I've had an opportunity to watch it myself, and I thought it was definitely a close fight. There's no doubt about it. And it really came down to who won certain rounds. You know, Hendricks won his rounds convincingly, and GSP inked his out. And that's, I think, what was the deciding factor, is that people were allowed that the rounds were so close that they could have went to Hendricks or could have went to GSP. But in the end of this, I guess, when your overview of the whole thing happens, you're looking at GSP, you're talking to a guy who's leaving a legacy in the sport for so many years. The nod's going to generally go to him. And I'm not for the you got to beat the champ and be the champ kind of thing. But in this situation, you're talking about a guy who basically he's been the 170-pound champ for the last 10 years. I mean, 8 years, something like that. So it's one of those situations where he's you gotta beat him. It's like a Chuck Liddell. You gotta beat that guy. You're riding a tour. You have to beat that guy. Because they just have a name and a legacy that just lives on and will live on past when they're gone. And the judges and the refs and everything like that, they're all humans. They're all in awe of those fighters as well because of who they are and what they've done in their career. And had Weidman, I think, not beat Anderson Silva the way he did, I mean, we potentially would have been looking at another fight like that. I mean, John Jones with the Gustafsson fight. So
absolutely.
That's another issue. I mean, that was another fight that was controversial, but Anderson's been the champ so long. It's really, or not Anderson, but John, he's been the champ already for a while, and he's won a lot of his fights convincingly. It's really hard to take the title away from someone like that. If the rounds are close, they're going to go to the champion.
In your mind, Ben was the former champion. Is he more dangerous now heading into this fight than it would have been if he were the champion?
I don't know. We'll see. I can't tell you. I mean, some guys, their career, they're on cloud 9 and they're beating everybody up and knocking them out, and then they lose, and all of a sudden their career goes downhill. You never know. And then there's guys that they're the champion for a little bit, and then they just don't have the motivation and drive anymore, to do it. So then you see them kind of start to slip off a little bit, or people catch on to their game, and we'll see what happens. I mean, I can't answer that until we actually fight.
January 25th at the United Center against Ben Henderson, main eventing here at the United Center. Give us your prediction.
A win. That's the biggest. That's the only prediction I can give. Yeah, I don't really care how it comes. If he stubs his toe and the ref has to stop it, I don't care.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me.
All it is about W's.
Yeah, it is about making sure the fans get a good fight. So I will make sure that I go out there and lay it on the line. Like I was telling someone earlier, is that I've come a long way in my career. I was the #1 fighter in the world in the UFC back in 2003, 2004. And I've went to Pride, I've went to Strikeforce, I've been at the top of my game for the last 10 years. I've seen fighters come and go. So now that I'm back at home in the UFC and I'm back here where I started my career, I'm going to finish my career here, and I'm not going to leave it up to anybody else to make the decision for me. So I'm going to go out there and get the fight.
Do you feel like this is kind of like your coming out party?
No, it's not a coming out party, but it's almost like a going home party. It's like it's my last hurrah. Like if you don't win this fight, then I can almost be sure that I will never get a title shot.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm 30.
How you're looking at it.
I'm 35. And I don't think it doesn't matter what sport you're in, but they don't want to put money and invest money into an older fighter, an older running back, an older football player, an older. It just doesn't happen. I mean, look at all the talk that was going on with Kobe Bryant. Basically, basically the second best player ever in NBA history. Mm-hmm. But there was a lot of talk that they were going to cut him, release him, trade him, do whatever. that talk happens because you're an older person, you know. And so if I was 27, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Now, how have you been able to adapt? You've been around for a long time, as you mentioned. You were kind of, one of the, the lightweight that has been at the top of the division for a very long time, well over a decade. But how have you been able to compete, with the younger guys? We're seeing athletes coming in bigger, faster, stronger, and their ability to retain information is so much more greater than what it was when it first started.
Well, I wouldn't say that their ability to retain information is good. It's just that we laid out the groundwork on how to train, how to be smart about it. So that's really what it comes down to. Like, we learned how to wall walk. We taught them how to wall walk. So now they know how to get their back to the fence and get up. We had to learn the hard way. Like, okay, you don't want to. Before it used to be you don't want to be against the fence. Now we know how to get up against the fence. It's like the place where you want to be. Mm-hmm. So those are all just shortcuts that they've learned. As far as that goes, I'm the guy that's helping design all the new product, all the new ways of getting up, and all. I'm the technician, the one that's why my legacy, and that's why I've been able to go ahead and keep fighting the way I've been fighting against these guys. Is I've learned and tried to develop new ways of fighting, and a lot of stuff, some of the stuff that Benson does, like he uses his heel on the side of the thigh. I did that against Eves back in UFC 49.
Yeah.
So I was the first person to ever do that. Eves couldn't walk for almost a week. And so those are things that people don't realize. Like that's been around forever. I was the first fighter to do the Superman punch in the UFC. Those are things Joe Rogan still talks about. I mean, those are the type of things those little things is what's kept me around in the sport for so long. Trying new things and trying to do them in fights. And sometimes they've cost me fights.
And finally, do you enjoy the added pressure of knowing, as you mentioned, that this may be your last hurrah heading into January 25th when you take on Ben Henderson here in Chicago?
Not really. It's kind of sad. It's like bittersweet, It's like it could be the last thing, but I think ultimately I'm not going to let it slip away. I mean, in my mind, I'm not going to let it slip away. I'm definitely not going to go down without a fight. You see guys, they know they're losing. I think in their mind they know they're losing the fight, and the corner's over there telling them, like, just keep doing what you're doing. You can bet your ass if my corner told me something like that, and that I was going down, that they wouldn't be in my corner anymore. So those are the things, like in my mind, when you're losing, just go out there and let it all hang out. I think you saw a little bit of that in my second Gilbert fight. I knew I had won the first. I knew I had lost the next 3. I knew I had to win. I had to basically knock him out in the 5th. And so in the beginning of that 5th round, I came out just swinging for the fences. And if that happens to be the case in this fight, you can bet your ass I'm going to let it go. I'm not going to go. I'm not just going to circle and stay away. That's for sure. So this means a lot to me, and this is no joke. We sit across the table and we like each other. I'm a big fan of his. I'm a big fan of Ben, but I'm not going to lose this fight. Not like that.
Josh, thanks so much for your time. We'll see you end of January. Josh Thomson joining us. He squares off with Ben Henderson here in Chicago at the United Center, January 25th. Get your tickets right now. They're on sale here in the Chicagoland area.